1975 was the 56th season for the National Football League, and for the 5th consecutive season, more than 10 million fans paid their way into arenas from coast to coast. Those fans and countless millions of television viewers witnessed a season of unparalleled color, drama, and excitement. It was perhaps the NFL's most exciting season. It was NFL 75. As the game of pro football became more and more modernized, so did the arenas in which it is played. The Detroit Lions moved into a bubble-domed 80,000-seat playroom called Pontiac Metropolitan Stadium. While in New Orleans, the main topic of conversation was the ninth wonder of the world, the incredible Louisiana Superdome. Or it was the main topic until the end of the season when Hank Stram was named the new head coach of the Saints. In Philadelphia, the new Eagle coach became youthful Dick Vermeil, fresh from UCLA's Rose Bowl upset of Ohio State. While in San Francisco, the search for a new head coach finally ended in Miami, when Don Shula's assistant head coach, Monty Clark, was persuaded to join the 49ers. Jack Pardee was another new and youthful head coach. His assignment was simply to rebuild the Chicago Bears. While in Green Bay, the new coach of the Packers was greeted as a returning hero, which indeed he was. Bart Starr could not transform the Packers into instant champions, but he did create some new kinds of excitement for the Green Bay faithful. Another former Packer hero, Forrest Gregg, took over the Cleveland Browns and found both frustration and a new 1,000-yard rusher in the sensational Greg Pruitt, number 34. Former Cleveland hero Paul Wiggin became head man in Kansas City, and the Chiefs took on a new look with Mike Livingston installed at quarterback, along with new receivers like rookie tight end Walter White, number 88. In New England, quarterback Steve Grogan and Patriot rookie tight end Russ Francis, number 81, became another new and surprisingly effective passing combination. The Denver Broncos were saddened by the retirement of all-time favorite Floyd Little, but at the same time were encouraged by the new and explosive talent of rookie wide receiver Rick Upchurch, number 80. New Atlanta quarterback Steve Bartkowski was the NFL's top draft choice in 1975. But on this touchdown against the Cincinnati Bengals, Bartkowski injured his elbow and was forced to sit out 1 month of the season. Bartkowski returned for the final month, led the Falcons to several impressive victories, and won for himself consensus recognition as Rookie of the Year. San Diego coach Tommy Prothro had almost a whole roster full of new faces. But unfortunately for Charger fans, the results on the field were depressingly familiar. Surprisingly, the same was true in New York City, where Joe Namath had a relatively injury-free season. But the Jets still finished in last place in their division and in conference passing statistics. The Jets had 2 head coaches during 1975, and both were fired. Bill Arnsparger survived as head coach of the other New York team, mainly because his Giants improved somewhat, and occasionally even played very well. In upstate New York, Buffalo's Joe Ferguson handed the ball to number 32 329 times. And even the world's best defense couldn't lay a finger on Mr. Orenthal James Simpson. O.J. did not rush for 2,000 yards in '75, but he did rush for more than 1,800, or about 600 more than anyone else in pro football. O.J. also led the league in scoring with 138 points, the most ever by a non-kicker. And his 23 touchdowns broke the record set by Gale Sayers just 10 years earlier. O.J. was also at times a devastating receiver. This pass and run pulled out a game against the Jets. Jim Brown, Gale Sayers, Hugh McElhaney, Lenny Moore. It's hard to imagine anyone better than the Juice. With O.J., the Bills scored 420 points in 1975, the most in the NFL. But they gave up 355 and finished 2 games out of first. A bitter disappointment for Coach Lou Saban and the Bills. Up in Viking country, wily old Minnesota again won the NFC's Central Division, and their defense was about as stingy as ever. But Coach Bud Grant had another reason to smile in '75. Quarterback Fran Tarkenton had his best season ever as he led the NFC in passing and broke the all-time career records of John Unitas for most completions and most touchdown passes. Fran Tarkenton, as always, threw to a variety of receivers, but his favorite was number 44, Chuck Foreman, who led the NFL in receiving and set a new record for running backs with 73 receptions. With men like this to help him, Fran Tarkenton was a consensus choice as the league's most valuable player. Los Angeles coach Chuck Knox also had many reasons to smile in '75 as his rambunctious Rams rolled over the NFC's Western Division by the almost unbelievable margin of 7 full games. Don Coryell's St. Louis Cardinals had a somewhat tougher time in the NFC East, but they still managed to surprise most of the experts by winning the division title for the 2nd straight season. Number 21, Terry Metcalf, scored in every way possible for an offensive player and set a new NFL season record with 2,462 yards of total offense. Quarterback Jim Hart used Terry Metcalf to the best possible advantage. Against the challenging Dallas Cowboys, Metcalf's spectacular end zone reception helped to clinch the division title for the Cardiac Cardinals. But their dream ended in the playoffs when the Los Angeles Rams, led by number 16, young Ron Jaworski, outscored St. Louis 35-23. For George Allen's Washington Redskins, it was a year of almost total frustration. Billy Kilmer did get the ball to Charlie Taylor often enough for Taylor to break the all-time career record for pass receptions. And the Redskins even had a candidate for Rookie of the Year in Mike Thomas, number 22. But their season was perhaps best summed up by one weird play in St. Louis. Dallas was the other team the Redskins had to beat to make the playoffs, and it was a typical Cowboy-Redskin grudge match which made the difference. Billy Kilmer bore the full brunt of the famed Dallas Doomsday defense, and for fighting Billy and the Redskins, the season ended before the playoffs for the first time in 5 years. At the start of the season, Dallas coach Tom Landry was given very little chance to do much because his Cowboys were supposedly at the beginning of a rebuilding program. But almost before anyone realized what was happening, number 12, Roger Staubach, had become the center of one of the most fascinatingly intricate offensive systems ever devised by any coach, rebuilding or otherwise. NFC Coach of the Year Tom Landry and quarterback Roger Staubach faced the ultimate challenge in the playoffs at Minnesota. With only seconds remaining and trailing 14-10, Staubach twice fired the Landry shotgun to his favorite clutch receiver and one of the game's best, Drew Pearson, number 88. The following week in Los Angeles, number 26, another Pearson, this time a former free agent named Preston, helped to shock the Rams in one of the season's greatest performances. Roger Staubach threw 4 touchdown passes, 3 of them to Preston Pearson, as the wild card Cowboys crushed the Rams to win the NFC title 37-7. At 48 years of age in 1975, Oakland's George Blanda became pro football's first 2,000-point scorer. But as usual, the big story for the Raiders was their explosive offense. Ken Stabler and wide receiver Cliff Branch led the Raiders to the championship of the AFC West for the 8th time in 9 years. But Coach John Madden's silver and black machine was once again stopped short of the world title. This time, Oakland's dream of glory died in a snowy AFC championship and only 15 yards from the Pittsburgh Steeler goal line. In 1975, the Houston Oilers blossomed into a contender under new head coach O.A. Bum Phillips. 5'9" Billy Hummingbird Johnson was the team's spark plug, and he tied a league record by returning 4 kicks for touchdowns. Quarterback Dan Pastorini also looked for number 84 in clutch situations. Billy Johnson, despite his size, is the kind of player every team would like to have, and the Oilers became the kind of team most coaches would like to have. Houston lost only 4 games in 1975, but 2 of them were squeakers won by the Cincinnati Bengals, the team that beat them out of a wild card spot by just 1 game. If any one game can be pointed out as the one which made the Oilers a winner, it would have to be the one against Don Shula's always tough Miami Dolphins. Until they hit Houston, the Dolphins had won 7 straight and appeared to be playoff bound for the 6th straight year. And then the following week, on this innocent-looking play, quarterback Bob Greasy was lost for the season. No less than half the starters from Miami's Super Bowl teams were now gone. Norm Boulage, number 31, and the human bowling ball, Don Nottingham, number 36, replaced Larry Zonka at fullback, and between them actually outgained and outscored their more famous predecessor. The Miami Dolphins, despite a roster filled with brand new no-names, still won 10 games, and this has to be a tribute to one of the greatest coaches of all time. But even Don Shula couldn't quite prevent the hottest football story of the year. The new Baltimore Colts were directed by rookie head coach Ted Marchibroda and a third-year rifle from Louisiana named Burt Jones. Burt Jones' primary offensive weapon was number 26, Lydell Mitchell, who became the first 1,000-yard rusher in the history of the Baltimore Colts. The moment of truth for Baltimore came in sudden death against Miami. A Chesapeake Bay fog rolled over Memorial Stadium and imparted even more drama to one of the NFL's most memorable games. Ted Marchibroda's Baltimore Colts became the first team in 6 years to beat the Dolphins out of the AFC Eastern title. In Paul Brown's final season as a head coach, he and quarterback Ken Anderson led the Cincinnati Bengals to 11 victories and a wild card spot in the playoffs. Ken Anderson, in fact, became only the third player in history to lead the NFL in passing for 2 successive seasons. And he did it by throwing short and long to backs, tight ends, wide receivers, and especially to Isaac Curtis, number 85. The passing game got the Bengals into the playoffs, but once there, they were outpassed and finally eliminated by the Oakland Raiders 31-28. The AFC Central Division was the NFL's toughest in 1975, but so strong were the defending world champion Pittsburgh Steelers that they did not lose a single game within the division. For a team which was already the league's strongest, Coach Chuck Noll developed a new formula for success. The 12 was, of course, quarterback Terry Bradshaw, while the rest of the equation depended upon a 5-foot 10-inch second-year receiver from Southern California by the name of Lynn Swann. Lynn Swann caught 49 passes during the 1975 regular season. Many of them were acrobatic delicacies, and 11 of them were for touchdowns. With more superheroes than they could use at one time, the Pittsburgh Steelers battled past Baltimore and Oakland in the playoffs and returned to the Super Bowl. Playing in the Super Bowl is the dream of every football player. To win the Super Bowl is the ultimate triumph. To be your team's most valuable player in the Super Bowl, that's too much even to dream about.
Super Sunday dawned bright and beautiful, like a scene from a Miami travel poster. But amid the sun-dappled skies and swaying palms, an alien sound soon pierced the air. The particular brand of football fanatic known as the Steeler fan swarmed outside Miami's Orange Bowl hours before game time. Pittsburgh partisans seemed to be everywhere, wearing almost anything, and all readily identifiable as partial to the Steeler cause. There were to be 2 teams participating in Super Bowl X, but Pittsburgh Hard Hats outnumbered Dallas Stetsons 3-1. This battle to be #1 among the boisterous celebrants continued long and loud inside the stadium. The Roman numeral classic known as Super Bowl X was to be witnessed not only by the 80,187 in the Orange Bowl, but well over 80 million TV viewers, the largest audience in television history. The pre-game festivities merely stoked the fires for the main attraction, the 2 finest teams in professional football. The surprising Dallas Cowboys were the Cinderella team of the NFL. Relegated to the purgatory of rebuilding before the season began, Dallas parlayed a new spirit and some last-minute miracles into a storybook season that would culminate with this, their 3rd visit to the Super Bowl. While Dallas needed miracles to reach the summit, Pittsburgh had few pitfalls along the way. For the Steelers had gone from Cinderella status to establishment powerhouse in a single year. Standing between them and a 2nd Super Bowl victory was the master of innovation, Tom Landry. With Landry's slide rule mind on the sidelines and Roger Staubach on the field, Dallas has a nearly unbeatable combination. For Staubach personifies the quarterback as a leader, and his talent is indisputable. His counterpart in Pittsburgh is that famed country singer, Terry Bradshaw. With the stature of Super Bowl IX's Tiffany Trophy behind him, the new Bradshaw is confident and mature. 2 teams, both with strong young quarterbacks, but one major difference, Pittsburgh's great steel curtain defense. In all of football, there is no match for it. Super Bowl X, like the 9 others before it, had an abundance of pageantry and pizzazz. But for the first time, the carnival of color was completely overshadowed by the game itself. For Super Bowl X was the most exciting Super Bowl ever.
Gentlemen, this is a $4,000 solid gold coin, the official bicentennial medal.
Fellas, we're going to have a different cost for the bicentennial. Listen, Mr. Warner. Get on, Norm. I've got it on, Jack. The Statue of Liberty is heads. This is tails. He's going to flip it in the air. Pittsburgh is the home team, so Dallas will tell me which guy's going to call it while the coin is in the air.
Right.
Who's going to call it?
Man right here. I'll call it.
All right. When it's on.
All right, you fellas say
Well, while it's in the air, and I'll
she's
repeat.
going to bounce about 3 feet in the
Wherever
air.
it rests.
Ready? Go.
You got it here.
Heads is called. It is heads.
That's right. It's a man's foot.
That's all right. Dallas,
take the ball.
Take the ball. Which way do you want to go, Andy?
They're taking the ball?
They've got the ball. They always want the
We'll
ball.
defend this end.
You'll defend that one. All right, let's line up so that people understand this.
Good luck to you. Not to where we are. Good luck.
Right.
The tempo of the game was set from the start. Dallas's reverse on the opening kickoff surprised Pittsburgh, and only Roy Girella kept Tom Henderson from going all the way. But the little kicker paid a big price. He suffered badly bruised ribs that would affect his performance all day. Dallas's flim-flammery had given them the ball in Steeler territory, and already everyone sensed this Super Bowl would break the mold. On the first play from scrimmage, L.C. Greenwood stripped Roger Staubach of the ball. Center John Fitzgerald was on the spot, but the Cowboys were forced to punt. Dallas soon got a second, even better chance when Pittsburgh punter Bobby Walden dropped the ball, and the Dallas special teams swarmed quickly in on their prey. This scene was etched indelibly on the mind of Chuck Noll, for Pittsburgh's poor kicking game was something that would haunt him all afternoon. On the very next play from the Pittsburgh 29, the Cowboys' multiple movement created confusion in the Steeler defense. Staubach's play fake and Dallas's decoys cleared the middle. Drew Pearson filled the void, gathered in a perfect pass from Jolly Roger, and was free. The Steelers were stunned. It was the only touchdown they permitted in the first quarter of the entire season, a total of 17 games. The Cowboys had made it look easy. But led by Terry Bradshaw, the Steelers came roaring back. Lynn Swann's kangaroo catch put Pittsburgh in close. Then Bradshaw crossed up the Cowboy computer with play 333, an unusual three tight end formation that the Dallas defense knew Pittsburgh always ran from. When number 72, Jerry Mullins, went in motion as the third tight end, the Cowboys defense followed him toward the middle. But Bradshaw rolled right and hit a wide open Randy Grossman for the touchdown that tied the game. Each team had fooled the other for a score, but Dallas had another surprise in store that frustrated Pittsburgh's defense. Their running game didn't figure to dent the steel curtain, but now using traps and draws, the Cowboys' no-name offensive backs drove downfield. They amassed 42 yards, nearly 3 times as much in one series as the Minnesota Vikings gained on the ground for all of Super Bowl IX. Finally, the Dallas running stalled, and forced to pass on 3rd and long, Roger Staubach had a close brush with disaster. Glenn Edwards' near miss of a coast-to-coast interception gave Dallas another chance, this time for 3 points on Tony Frisch's field goal. Dallas had moved the ball against proud Pittsburgh on 2 consecutive series and now led the Steelers 10-7. At the start of the second quarter, Pittsburgh stormed back through the air. John Stallworth failed to hold onto a catch Dallas thought they had recovered, but the pass was ruled complete. An uncharacteristically emotional Tom Landry needn't have worried, however, for when Pittsburgh gambled to go for a 4th and 2 from the Dallas 36, All-Pro safety Cliff Harris stepped to the fore. The team's leading hitman, Harris taunted Pittsburgh all day. His intimidation tactics paid off when Franco Harris, of all people, took his eyes off a perfect pass. For the doomsday defense and pugnacious Cliff Harris, stopping Franco was the key to Super Bowl X. And they stopped him nearly every time he touched the ball. Franco Harris has the unique ability to cut back against the grain, leaving opponents flailing at air. But today, Pittsburgh's big gun was fired 27 times for only 82 yards. Harris never got outside all day. But while Doomsday erected a tombstone for Franco, they completely missed the target in Terry Bradshaw and the Pittsburgh passing attack. Error-free and seemingly with hours of pocket time, the rifle-armed Steeler quarterback exploited the Cowboys through the air. Lynn Swann's levitating leap was one of the great catches in football history. Though Swann, who would later be named the game's most valuable player, literally rose to the occasion on the 53-yard pass, Pittsburgh moved no further and looked to Roy Gerela to put the points on the scoreboard that would tie the game. It was the first of 3 kicks Gerela would miss on the day, but the modest 10-7 score in no way reflected the furious action crammed into the first half of Super Bowl X. In the third quarter, another Gerela miss was vital to the outcome of the game. Cliff Harris celebrated the kicker's misfortunes with glee, but number 58, Jack Lambert, quickly came to the rescue. Though Gerela's nemesis was spirited away from danger, the damage was done. Lambert, who many feel stands as the successor to Dick Butkus as the most fearsome defensive player in football, later said, "No one can be allowed to intimidate us. We're supposed to be the intimidators." Lambert used the incident to psych himself to an even higher level of rage. With Joe Green injured, Jack Lambert became the new symbol of Steeler muscle, sifting and rooting through blockers until he found the ball carrier. And Jack Lambert found them 14 times in Super Bowl X. Harris's harmless heckling and Lambert's inspired reaction to it became a turning point for the Steel Curtain defense, and the Dallas Cowboys paid the price. A defensive target was sent to John Fitzgerald, the trigger on the Dallas shotgun. In an alignment that had both tackles helmet to helmet with him, Pittsburgh made the long, blind center snap even harder to execute. But the biggest factor on defense was blanket coverage by the Steelers secondary. The shotgun was designed to give Staubach extra time and improved sight lines to his receivers, but they seldom came open, and the Pittsburgh front four frolicked in. In the second half, the Pittsburgh defense jammed the shotgun and reduced it to a squirt, setting a Super Bowl record 7 sacks as a Niagara of gold and black poured down on Roger Staubach. Pittsburgh's Steel Curtain had physically taken control of the game. But despite their mastery on the field, what takes place on the sidelines is of equal import to a well-coordinated defense.
They've been running that P13 IC. They've been I-ing fancy. And with pass protection I and the I formation, screw the pass. It's play, pass, or run, so the hell with the pass. You get pass for a pass influence with an I, play the run. Because they got him to rush upfield, and that's when they've been running that delayed P13.
That's what they're doing.
Yeah. And the other thing is they ran a ride 35 and they cut all the way behind you. You can't help with that. That's got to be Lambert and that's got to be LC. When he sees that, he's got to close it. Because you start screwing with that, they're going to go up inside of you. Hey, LC, they cut all the way behind our stunt tackle. Did your guy I don't know what kind of block he used, but they got inside of you. And when you're in a two gap, he tries to jump inside.
He just hauled me down. I was two gap and I went into him and he just rolled me
Drive
down.
that all the way back because they have no thought of going outside on that. It's all cut back. We're lucky we got out of that series. We got a lot learned there with 3 points. We ought to be all right.
Despite Pittsburgh's defensive dominance, the game was still 10-7 and belonged to Dallas. Then at the start of the final period, Dallas was forced to punt near its end zone. Chuck Noll called for an uncommon all-out rush with 10 men poised at the line ready to charge the punter. Mitch Hupps never knew what hit him. Reggie Harrison's kamikaze charge blocked the ball and sent it out of the end zone for a safety. As so often happens in pro football, a pivotal play was made by the special teams. Pittsburgh now trailed Dallas by a single point. The safety meant more than 2 points, for with a free kick coming, Pittsburgh would have good field position and the opportunity to score again. Indeed, the kick was taken by Mike Collier, and the rookie returned it inside Dallas territory. With their backs to the wall, the Doomsday defense played tough, and Pittsburgh came up short of a first down. The Steelers' fate was once more riding on the foot of Roy Girella, whose aching ribs and bruised psyche did not engender much confidence at this juncture of the game. But the kick was true, and Girella made certain his nemesis, Cliff Harris, was aware of it. More importantly, the Pittsburgh Steelers had taken the lead for the first time in Super Bowl X. After the field goal, a great individual effort by safety Mike Wagner, number 23, stunned Dallas. On the same play that earlier had worked for a touchdown, Wagner had gambled and won. The Steelers safeties were supposed to kick out, go deep, which would allow Drew Pearson to cut across the middle alone, as he did on his first period touchdown. It's been our bread and butter play all season, Roger Staubach said later. It was the first time it didn't work. Wagner's great play put Pittsburgh deep, but on 3rd and goal with the Dallas defense backed up on their own 1-yard line, the Steelers were stopped short of a touchdown again. Franco Harris recovered his own fumble, but Pittsburgh had missed a golden opportunity to put the game away. Roy Girella was called upon for a chip shot, and his kick was good, but Dallas was only 5 points behind, with plenty of time left in Super Bowl X. All day, Mark Washington had been a target for the Pittsburgh air attack. Now on 3rd and 4, Bradshaw read a blitz that would leave the cornerback exposed in single coverage with Lynn Swann. The result is Super Bowl history. The 64-yard touchdown pass had seemingly put the game out of reach. But while the graceful Swan was celebrating at one end of the field, Terry Bradshaw had been knocked senseless at the other. On the touchdown play, Tom Landry, trying to change the course of the game, had called an all-out blitz. D.D. Lewis, number 50, was the first man in but missed. And then with 2 more Cowboys bearing down, Bradshaw stood his ground and let fly. Accounts of the game report Cliff Harris hit Bradshaw, but it was number 63, tackle Larry Cole, who leveled him. One look at Cole and D.D. Lewis tells all you need to know about the results of the play. Terry Bradshaw left the field with a concussion, but he left a hero. Under his leadership, Pittsburgh had 4 scores in the space of 8 minutes, and ahead now by 11 points with only 3 minutes left. The Steelers appeared to have Super Bowl X salted away. But if Pittsburgh thought the issue was settled, Dallas didn't. With the clock running, the Cowboys came winging downfield on the arm of Roger Staubach. Staubach is a former naval officer who never gives up the ship. Against impossible odds, he took his team 80 yards on 4 passes to the touchdown that brought Dallas to within 4 points of the Steelers. Every one of the 80 million plus who watched this game knew what was coming next. Number 72 tackle Jerry Mullins successfully fielded the onside kick, and the Pittsburgh offense, now led by Terry Hanratty, tried to run out the clock. Pittsburgh gained only a single yard in 3 tries. Now, with 1:28 showing, the Steelers were faced with 4th and 9. Here, Chuck Noll made a controversial decision. Everyone expected Pittsburgh to punt, but knowing Dallas had already used up their timeouts, Noll disdained the punt and ran the ball again. Needing 9 yards, it wasn't even close, and Dallas had another chance to score. No one, not even Noll's own players, understood his decision, but it was born from Pittsburgh's punting problems. Walden had dropped 1 punt and nearly had 2 others blocked earlier in the game. Noll had no confidence in his kicking game, and rather than risk the punt, left the issue up to his great defense. It came down to Roger Staubach versus the Steel Curtain defense for one final round. Visions of the Minnesota Miracle flashed through the minds of Dallas fans everywhere. Staubach threw short to former Steeler Preston Pearson, who inexplicably turned toward the middle rather than get out of bounds to stop the clock. Now into Pittsburgh real estate, disaster nearly occurred. "12 seconds left, and the cool courage of Staubach contrasted with a frantic finish, but the quarterback was throwing against a stacked deck. "3 seconds left. Time for one last play in the Super Bowl X. One last chance for the Cowboys to complete their impossible dream. With Glenn Edwards' interception, Pittsburgh's victory was secure. From the opening kickoff to the final gun, Super Bowl X had more fireworks than any bicentennial celebration could possibly match. Chuck Noll joined Don Shula and Vince Lombardi as the only coaches to win the Super Bowl twice. The Pittsburgh Steelers now ranked with Green Bay and Miami as one of the great teams in pro football history. The Dallas Dream fell just 4 points short, but as Mel Renfro said, we have no regrets. We played as well as we possibly could. For the Steelers who won and the Cowboys who almost did, both could be proud to be part of the greatest Super Bowl ever played.
This NFL Films production has been brought to you by the National Football League. The NFL is online at www.nfl.com.